Hey, so what we're doing is we're gonna go ahead and show y'all how to build the base of y'all's hooks. As you can see here, this has got a weed guard, it's got lead eyes on the back, which is a little bit overkill for the most part, but for these it was necessary. And I'm going to show y'all how to build a flat section to help keep, honestly, your flies, the dots of them lined up. So I'm going to move my fly into the vise, and I'm going to angle it straight down like that so I can get back real close to the bend. And right here I'm using the Semperfli 300 denier thread, and I like this because it's got a 25-pound breaking strength to it, and you can see I'm literally tightening that thread so much that it's getting clear and you can see the color of the hook through it. That's how tight you can get this, and that's how tight I really like to do this. And you're going to see me going with super glue a lot and a lot of glue, and this is what I use right here, just 20-pound fluorocarbon. This is what I'm going to make the double weed guard out of. And instead of actually building this and putting it to the side to where it flows along the side of the hook, I have it to where it lays along the front, like the inside part of the bend, as you'll see here, and goes across. And I find that works just as well as if you went to the sides. Admittedly, in my flies that I make, I actually wrap their weed guards really far down the shank, but I make sure to go over the entire thing with, more than likely, it's super glue and an epoxy resin, or at least an epoxy resin. So it's not going to present an issue of, oh, is the thread going to fray or anything. But I really like this Solarez medium viscosity. I also have the thick, but for the normal stuff, I just like the medium. And as you can see, every handful of wraps, I'm making sure to pull that thread as tight as possible, really utilizing that 25-pound breaking strength to cinch this fly down and making sure that the base of this is as sturdy as possible. So right here, I'm about to go in with some lead dumbbell eyes, and I'm putting down a layer of super glue, and I use the gel Loctite super glue, and then those are just large white painted eyes. It is a little bit big, but this is a 4/0 fly, and I'm going to be putting around 6 layers of deer hair on here, so it's going to be plenty big enough. And I actually want the back end to droop down into the water, because this is going to be having some of Pat Cohen's wiggle tails, and those are notoriously hard to get to kick. So you kind of have to do really anything and everything you can to keep those legs in the water. But as you see here, I'm going through and layering super glue in here, just really trying to secure everything with as much glue and I'm not going to say as a little thread, but I don't want to overdo the thread wraps or anything like that, because this stuff is strong enough to be able to hold with just a handful of them. But everything, no matter what, gets UV glue over the top of it. That's always a final step of mine. And if it's not these dumbbell eyes, sometimes I'll use a big bead in the back as weight, or I'll use some lead weight and just wrap some thread around it, and again go over it with UV resin and or super glue. But that's typically the process. And right here, I'm just wrapping up, making sure, going up 5-6 wraps and tightening up until I can see the color of the hook shine through the thread. and going all the way up to the top, and then you're going to see me, I'm going to layer a line of super glue all the way down. See this here? It's just a thin line, like you can barely even see it. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to get some 50-pound monofilament. I'm going to lay it on both sides, and that's just the stuff I use. It's cheap Walmart kind. It works just as good. The only thing is I find that it's not a hard mono, so it doesn't keep its shape. If you pull that line hard enough, it'll squish in, but if you work with it enough, you can actually get it to where that actually is a benefit almost, because it takes the form of the hook and makes it a more secure wrapping. But as you can see here, 5-6 wraps and tightening down as much as I can. And this is how I'm going to make the mono loop for the back, just to kind of hold the tails flat. And this right here, this process is pretty much universal on every deer hair bass bug I make. And there I am again with the super glue line, because I'm wanting to make sure that this is not going to move, especially whenever I'm packing down and I'm cinching down on those fibers and everything later on in the process. The last thing I would want is for this to actually rotate and start moving on me. And some people, they say to scratch the hook, and I find that is, for me anyways, not really needed. And I guess the main reason for that would be is the thread really that I use allows me to cinch down so tight that I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, is it still going to move after I get done cinching down. And there we go. And right here, I'm going to finish it off with a whip finish. And if you haven't learned how to whip finish with your hands, and I would strongly recommend it. Ever since I've been able to do that, ever since I've done that, really haven't needed anything. But those are a closer look at those pliers that I use. And I just go through afterwards and just straighten it up, making sure it's all lined up absolutely straight. Alright, and my last step here is I'm going to go over the entire body of it with super glue. I prefer to use a thinner, more liquid type super glue, but all I had on hand was a gel. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on there and rub it in all over the place. And I prefer the liquid because it actually seeps in there and it seems to get more of a bond all the way to the base of the hook. While this stuff, you have to, as you see, I have to spend a lot of time rubbing it in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over it with just an old paper towel and rub all the excess off. And you got to be careful because the paper towel can sometimes get hot. I'm pretty sure there's some weird reaction that goes on, but I just blow on it a little bit. So, but that's it.